Well, I think, 90% of rappers are rats.
It's 1090 Jake, man. I'm rocking with y'all rocking with me. And for this video, we're gonna be speaking on...
Bro, this whole little thing about trying to find all the snitches in hip-hop is just a witch hunt that's always gonna end bad.
I think the allegations of snitching and doing all that on the internet is just getting out of hand. Every other day somebody got paperwork. I'm like, what the is going on? Like, what the is going on?
Everybody knows the saying, snitches get stitches, but in rap, snitches get blackballed and lose opportunities and money. Some rappers have even lost their entire careers from snitching or snitching allegations. It's not taken lightly in the hip-hop world. But despite these serious implications, people throw snitching allegations around on a regular basis, oftentimes with no proof. It's hard to go a month without hearing Wack 100 or Boosie accusing someone of ratting, and there are YouTubers like 1090 Jake who have dedicated their entire careers to digging into snitching allegations and breaking these stories on a regular basis. Interrogation footage is leaking at a rate never seen before, and it seems like half of the industry has some type of allegations around their name and somebody claiming they told. To make matters worse, everybody doesn't even have a clear definition on what exactly snitching is. The whole situation is a mess, and it's getting worse and worse by the day. So in this video, we'll take a look at the history of snitching in hip-hop and the uptick in coverage these past couple of years. In the US, snitching has always been uncool. Growing up, everybody learns the saying, snitches get stitches, and in elementary school, nobody liked tattletales. In American youth culture, it's cool to do things that aren't always 100% legal, and nobody wants to be told on. So in middle and upper class American youth culture, snitching isn't cool, but only in moderation. In a low stakes situation, the average frat bro might not give up his plug to the police, but if he saw a robbery, he would probably call the station and report it voluntarily. In less fortunate communities, there is no moderation when it comes to the topic of snitching. These types of communities typically have higher levels of crime, which means more influence from street culture. And street culture literally only has one rule, and that's don't tell. This concept can be traced back to Sicilian omerta law, which is a code of silence and refusal to give information to the authorities. The basic idea behind this code is to protect the organization. A lot of the time, authorities didn't have the sufficient evidence alone to put a whole gang away and relied heavily on informants. So in theory, if members stayed silent, individuals might get jammed up, but the organization would never be taken down. Italian mobs were very influential on American crime, and this code of silence basically became the golden rule for criminals everywhere. Whatever you do, don't tell. And if you do, you suffer the ultimate consequence. For criminals, this rule is very clear. Don't give information of any kind. But there are disagreements on who it applies to. Many make the argument that civilians who give the police information are not snitching. In the Snitches and Rats interlude, written by Big Rube and used on Metro Boomin and 21 Savage's Savage Mode 2 mixtape, it states a regular citizen who reports seeing a crime isn't a snitch or a rat, the criminals were just sloppy. It goes on to define a rat as someone who participated in a crime but sold others out to save themselves from the consequences of their actions. But everybody doesn't hold this definition. There are many people in the other camp who believe that anyone who talks to the police is snitching, even if they are a law-abiding citizen. In many low-income areas, law-abiding citizens might fear the same consequences for cooperating with the police as active criminals. And in addition, many law-abiding citizens may also have friends or family in the streets who they don't want to compromise, leading to a culture where everybody is scared to cooperate. This type of culture allows criminals to terrorize communities with little fear of repercussions. Cooperating with the feds is one thing, But there's also another form of telling called dry snitching, which is an indirect form. This involves incriminating someone indirectly. This could mean telling someone like a mother or a girlfriend incriminating information, knowing they'll probably go to the authorities if things get serious. Dry snitching could also mean putting lyrics in a song that implicate somebody did a crime. There's a large amount of debate about what qualifies as dry snitching and whether dry snitching makes somebody a rat. For gangster rappers, any snitching allegation of any kind could be extremely damaging. It also so happens that this is an extremely easy allegation to throw at somebody when you're beefing. To actually confirm whether or not somebody snitched requires obtaining court documents and digging through these documents to find statements, something 99.99% of fans are not going to do. So if a rapper labels another rapper a snitch, a lot of their fans will just run with it.
This is how we do. We make a move and act a fool while we up in the club. This is how we do.
In the 2000s, rappers began using this strategy. 50 was one of the first and biggest examples of this. In 2000, he was involved in an altercation in the studio where several people were cut. One of the people in the studio with 50 was a label A&R, and the A&R made a statement to police. Because he was with 50, 50 was listed as a victim in the paperwork, and people would end up using this to call 50 a rat. 50 had a lot of beefs, so as soon as one person used the situation to call him a rat, everybody just repeated it. Ja Rule, Jadakiss, Fat Joe, Game, and a bunch of other rappers called him a rat in disses, but nobody ever put out paperwork proving 50 himself made a statement. In 2007, Houston rappers Scarface and Lil Troy got into a beef, and Lil Troy tried to accuse Scarface of snitching, but the man he accused him of snitching on later wrote a letter saying that this was not true. In 2011, Prodigy from Mobb Deep wrote a book, and in this book he accused Capone from Capone and Noriega of snitching, but once again there was no proof released. In 2014, a major situation occurred on the Chicago drill scene when Rondo No. 9, an up-and-coming rapper, and his homie C-Day were booked on a body, and they accused Tay 600, another up-and-coming rapper, of snitching. Lil Durk was friends with Rondo and co-signed these allegations, and basically everybody from Tay 600's neighborhood turned their back on him. His music career would suffer, and he would eventually stop rapping. The truth behind these allegations was extremely hard to uncover. Several versions of paperwork came out, but grammatical errors led many to believe some of these were fake. A YouTube channel that claimed to have the official paperwork pulled from Open Record revealed that it was redacted, so fans still don't really know anything for certain, but regardless of whether he told or not, these allegations flipped Tay's career upside down. The majority of the 10s was quiet for snitching allegations, but in 2018, things would change forever when Tekashi 6ix9ine, one of the hottest artists in rap at the time, was arrested on RICO charges, along with the gang he was hanging with, the 9 Trey Bloods. In 2019, 6ix9ine took the stand and told on everyone. In 2020, he came home, but despite some initial attention due to curiosity, hip-hop basically turned its back on him, and his album Tattletales flopped, and so did his relevance when it came to music. The whole 6ix9ine situation generated a large amount of attention, and in 2020, people were on high alert when it came to anything snitch related, and stories began popping up left and right. In early 2020, an old clip of Gunna in a Crime Stoppers video came out.
That's why it's come back to that street word, snitch. No one's want to be labeled as a snitch.
In the video, Gunna and his mother were basically explaining how his cousin got charged for a body, and basically suggested that his co-defendant who told on him was the one who actually did it.
Not right, because you think you have one in jail for the crime, but it's not the right guy.
This was a pretty clear example of what most people would define as dry snitching. but it did raise some debate on the internet. Next, an old video of T.I. surfaced. T.I. wasn't talking about a person or situation, it was just a mandatory promo he had to do as part of a sentencing deal.
All you gotta do is call Crime Stoppers Atlanta. Tips can be anonymous, and there's even a reward.
The video was basically just him encouraging viewers to report any crimes they saw to authorities. Despite the fact that zero information of any kind was given on anybody, people came out saying that this was snitching, showing just how different people's definitions of the word really were.
I'm off at 80, I'm up. I don't got no time to relax. I turn a 2 to a 4, and I turn a 5 to a stack.
In mid-2020, after 6ix9ine came home, he tried his best to justify his snitching by accusing other rappers of doing the same thing.
50 didn't tell? 50 ain't tell? We tell him.
He brought up the old 50 Cent allegations from 20 years ago and also made claims that Snoop Dogg and Jim Jones told, providing zero real evidence for any of this. But the media ate these accusations up, covering them and making articles and videos blasting these statements around. In December, a former associate of G Herbo did the same thing as 6ix9ine and hit the internet with claims that Herb had snitched with zero evidence of any kind, and as usual, the blogs picked the story up and reported on it. 2020 definitely saw a spike in the topic of snitching, but it was mostly talk, false rumors, and fabrication. However, at the end of the year, real paperwork came out on an up-and-coming rapper called Pop Hunna, and this basically destroyed his career. Earlier that year, he blew up off a TikTok song known to the masses as Corvette Corvette. The song got so big, he was able to get Uzi on the remix. However, after the allegations broke, DMs also made their way around social media that appeared to show Uzi asking to be removed from the song. In more recent interviews, Pop claimed these DMs were fake, but Uzi has neither confirmed or denied this. However, at the time, everyone thought they were real. Pop was still a very new artist, and people thinking Uzi, the first big artist to co-sign him, had turned his back, definitely turned the tide against him, and following this incident, his career never recovered. The next artist hit with the snitch label was Spottemgottem. In late 2020, Spottem had started blowing up with a song called Beatbox. He was part of the deadly beef going on in Jacksonville with Yungeen Ace and Fulio. In January, one of his ops posted the paperwork showing Spottem made a statement. Spottem's name was hot at the time, and the news spread quickly. Prior to this situation, Spottem had paid Lil Durk $100K for a feature, but after the news came out, Lil Durk returned the money and chose not to work with him. The paperwork ended up being legit, and even people on Spottem's side confirmed that he had told. Him being labeled a snitch didn't affect his career as drastically as people like Pop Hunna and Tay 600, but the Durk situation showed it clearly compromised possible collaborations with bigger artists. In August, former Terror Squad rapper Cuban Link posted what he claimed was paperwork saying that Fat Joe snitched as another jab in their ongoing beef. Fat Joe responded saying that the paperwork was false, and a few months later, Cuban Link admitted that it was not legit, but the situation was another example of how easy it was to cook up a fake document, call someone a snitch on the internet, and have 30+ articles putting the word snitch by their name in a headline of an article talking about fake allegations. In late 2021, an up-and-coming New York drill rapper known as Blockwork found himself in a situation where his own gang labeled him a snitch. He and another rapper in the gang caught a charge, and the other rapper said Blockwork told on him. Nobody ever put out any paperwork, real or fake, and there was zero proof of any kind, but his whole gang turned against him. Everyone labeled him a snitch, and the situation definitely hurt his career. In 2022, more snitching rumors came out. A new artist called Sleazy World Go blew up in late 2021, and by summer of 2022, people were already trying to slander his name, posting alleged paperwork of him snitching. Nobody could really tell if the paperwork was real or fake. The situation didn't get much coverage, and given all the false accusations thrown at rappers, people basically just moved on, so his career wasn't really affected at all.
Niggas
Got me a list. Quit this switch topics. No way I can snitch.
In late 2022, the topic of snitching got extremely hot. It started when Gunna was released on a plea deal. Video came out on what he had admitted to get out, and it made a lot of noise. Initially, people were divided, and some claimed that he didn't tell on anyone specifically, but others felt that him saying YSL is a gang and he had knowledge of members committing crimes was more than enough reason to call him a snitch.
And you have personal knowledge that members or associates of YSL have committed crimes in furtherance of the gang.
Yes, ma'am.
Vocal figures like Boosie and Wack 100 immediately labeled him a snitch, but it took longer for consensus opinion to come around. In January, Lil Durk dropped a snippet dissing Gunna, implying he told, and around the same time, a bunch of high-profile rappers unfollowed him, the biggest being Lil Baby, and this basically sealed the deal as far as public opinion. Around the same time as the Gunna situation, an up-and-coming Florida rapper known as Real Boston Richey had an op post paperwork about him. A YouTuber known as 1090 Jake did some research on the situation and posted a video covering all the paperwork and concluding Richey had told. Not everyone agreed, and the biggest voice opposing 1090 Jake was Bruce Rivers, a criminal lawyer who made an argument that Boston Richey making a statement and being on the witness list didn't necessarily make him a snitch if he didn't show up in court and testify. This was a further example of the divide in opinion over what qualifies as snitching and what doesn't. In response to the opposition of his claims, Jake dropped the interrogation video, which showed Boston Richey identifying several people and giving the name of an alleged shooter.
Y'all can't bring no picture? Okay.
Yeah, I'll work on it. Give me a minute.
If I see him, I'm going.
Okay. I'll be back.
This basically sealed the deal and convinced the majority of people that he was a rat. Following this situation, Boston Richey was removed from Future's tour. He claimed he took himself off to focus on music, but most people attributed it to him being exposed. Before the situation, Richey had done songs with big artists like Lil Durk, Moneybagg Yo, and Future, but since these allegations dropped, he has yet to do a song with another major artist. After Richey was labeled a snitch, the crazy trajectory his career was on in 2022 suffered a small hit, but for the most part, he remained steady, still pulling high views, appearing on the XXL cover, and maintaining his relevance. In April of 2023, the next artist to face snitching allegations was the legendary Atlanta rapper / kingpin, Ralo. It started when someone in his camp posted a phone call that appeared to be Ralo apologizing for snitching.
What about this on page 12 where it say he is cooperating against heroin, methamphetamine, he knows about shootings, and the
opposition to that. Listen, when you go in there, they ask you other questions. I made my presentation. They started asking other.
You know the code though. You ain't supposed to have no meeting with them folks in the first place.
And paperwork that appeared to show Ralo giving information to the feds. Ralo is an extremely well-respected rapper, so the situation caused a lot of uproar and received a lot of coverage. Some people were quick to call Ralo a rat, but others claimed the video had been edited to make Ralo look bad. The most in-depth video was a breakdown from 1090 Jake. According to him, the official document that Ralo's former associate had posted snippets of was not available to anyone outside the case, but given the fact that there was no sentencing reduction or benefit of any kind for Ralo, more than likely, Ralo's explanation of the situation, being his legal team trying to trick the feds by feeding them false information about someone else paid to take the charges for him, was a probable explanation. Public opinion was on Ralo's side, and when he came home in November, he was welcomed back like a hero. In May, paperwork on CEOP, one of the owners of the quality control label, surfaced. By this point, 1090 Jake had covered the Gunna, Boston Richey, and Ralo situations, and was becoming the go-to guy when it came to snitching. And he had the biggest video covering the situation on YouTube. P responded to the situation, basically saying he wasn't in the streets and wasn't obligated to abide by any code. This brought up the old debate of is cooperating with the police snitching if you're a civilian, and can you even claim you're a civilian if you did illegal things in the past. P was unaffected in any way, but Gunna fans would use the situation as a reason to say Lil Baby was fake for switching on him and not P. Following the CEO P situation, 1090 Jake started going crazy with the snitching content. He made a video about Young Thug's brother Unfunk snitching on him, then another one exposing Rich Homie Quan and audio of him implicating Young Thug in a hit on an Atlanta gang leader called Big Nut. In July, 1090 Jake broke another story about a West Coast rapper called 03 Greedo who had recently come home from 5 years in the feds after being caught transporting illegal substances in a car across the country. Greedo's own hood had allegedly sent the paperwork, and it said Greedo told the police he got paid $3,000 to go on the drive and felt something illegal was going on. Greedo said the report was false and the police lied. He went on No Jumper to defend himself and brought his co-defendant, who he allegedly snitched on, with him, and his co-defendant defended him as well. This once again brought up the debate on what qualifies as snitching, because the statements Greedo had allegedly made didn't directly state anything, they weren't used in court, and didn't affect his sentencing in any way, but they did imply his co-defendant was the one that was guilty. This same month, 1090 Jake also released accusations aimed at the Memphis rapper Finesse 2 Times. He made a post showing paperwork he allegedly got from a co-defendant from a 2008 robbery case Finesse had caught as a juvenile. However, he didn't make a long-form YouTube video the way he did with everybody else, because according to him, he couldn't access all the paperwork on his own and only had what the co-defendant showed him. With all these videos 1090 Jake was doing, he was ruffling a lot of feathers, and people would begin to look into his past and see what they could uncover. Someone would release an old grievance letter Jake had written in jail about a fight he got into that resulted in him being placed in solitary. This letter was an attempt to get out. It had details about the fight, including the name of the person he got into a fight with and what they did to him. According to Jake, the fight had happened right in front of the COs, and the person he had fought had also written a grievance letter speaking on the situation. Once again, it was a matter of opinion, and only people who are really big fans of Jake or really big haters even cared to look into the situation. As 2023 continued, more and more allegations continued popping up. In August, an interrogation of Yungeen Ace dropped. His main op, Fulio, posted a clip and claimed Yungeen Ace had ratted.
Who was fighting? Them two like that. Who were they? Jeremy. Jeremy? Yeah. Okay. They were fighting. Jeremy's fighting who? Who's the other boy? My brother. Who's your brother? Trevon? Yeah. Okay.
Similarly to Ralo, Yungeen Ace is well respected and viewed as really like that, so him being implicated in something like this sent shockwaves through the internet. Once again, the debate on what qualifies as snitching came back up, with some people agreeing with Fulio and others defending Ace. Overall, the majority of people were on Ace's side, and the situation didn't really affect him much. In December, a transcript of an interrogation of Chicago rapper King Yella came out, and the internet had a field day. The police asked about his beef with high-profile rappers like Offset, Lil Durk, 600 Breezy, and Snap Dogg, as well as their gang affiliations, and Yella told everything. Yella would defend himself by saying he was only telling them things they already knew, but nobody really bought this, and the internet clowned him for being a snitch. Most recently, BG, a former member of the Hot Boys and Cash Money, found his reputation under attack, fresh off being released when 1090 Jake released a video breaking down paperwork that appeared to show that BG testified in front of a grand jury. This shook up the internet, and many rushed to his defense while others condemned him as a rat. This brings us to the present day. Snitching allegations are coming out nearly every month. Some are real, some are fake, some situations are clear, others are up for debate. For newer artists, These allegations can be career ending, but for an established artist, it might cause their fans to rally behind them stronger than ever. This is one of the more unexpected trends in hip hop. Eventually, fans will most likely stop caring, but there's no telling how long this will take. And while there's still an audience of people who care, channels like 1090 Jake will continue breaking stories. People have wildly different definitions on what qualifies as snitching, so there will always be a debate. And for artists who face these allegations early into their careers, some of their futures will be decided by which side is able to shape the narrative the most.